The Rams can melt, they can blast, they can rise above. They could be invincible.
Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the December 23rd, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law. If you're injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions, call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word. KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Bench the app. Don't take a goose egg. Don't take a zero because you left a non-starting player in your fantasy lineup. Download Bench the app today and dominate your fantasy season. A little note about the Bench the app, guys. I know the guys that run that app and are going to have great success with it. I'm in a fantasy league with them, and yeah, I'm 11-4-1 in their fantasy league. So yeah, they had to come down here. They're San Luis Obispo based, and they had to come south here to find out what's going on. All right, a lot of stuff here. Rams still in first place. The good news is 49ers, Arizona, bye-bye. Rest in peace. Your season is over. And things keep dwindling down. The Cowboys, even though they're on a bit of a hot streak right now, they're eliminated. And what it really comes down to is the Falcons, Buccaneers, Rams, Seahawks, and the Rams have the best record out of all those teams. And, of course, these are for divisional spots. And so a lot of stuff to talk about the college football playoff a little bit. But real quick here, how sick are you of these NFL officials? I mean, they did it to the Jets yesterday too, but some of these holding calls, it's like, is there a quota that the NFL office says you have to meet? Because you're looking at these holding calls and you're thinking, really, you're going to call that? And then, of course, we see much more blatant stuff all the time. It's just something's got to change here, because if everything's about the game being offense, maybe we need to make offensive holding 5 yards, right? Let's make it 5 yards. Because it's kind of ridiculous. It's really getting ridiculous. And I will personally, on my last breath on earth, if I'm asked, I will tell you the call on Hunter Long for motion that wiped out Blake Corum's 30-plus yard run, that was henhouse. That flag did not need to be thrown. That flag was thrown because the official said everyone has to throw 50 flags during a season, and that official only has 37, and he needed to throw one, and he threw one. That was ridiculous. But it happened to the Jets as well. There's just stuff there that NFL needs to clean it up, man. And I do not like the subjectivity of replay assist, right? Step in and correct something when it's wrong. Anyway, here we go. I think we all believed the Rams would win. I think we did. Even when it was 9-6 at halftime, I think we all believed the Rams would win. And I didn't think any of us, however, were surprised on how it played out. We didn't expect a pretty game. We didn't expect a beautiful game, right? And we'll break it down here in a second. But two things bugged me coming out of that game. You don't always need a sack, but you need the hurries. And the Rams' defensive line is good enough. The front seven is good enough to get those hurries on everybody. And the Jets' O-line is decent, but there were no hurries yesterday. There was one sack on a blitz, and they just couldn't touch it. Aaron Rodgers had opportunity after opportunity. That was one absolutely spick and span, Mr. Clean passing pocket that he operated out of. And that part was getting really frustrated. Now, maybe the cold was playing a part in that, but it was very frustrating to see Aaron Rodgers not have any pressure. And the few times they did get pressure, you saw the dividends of it. So that part was bugging me. They made him move a little bit more in the second half. The second part, well, I'll let me finish on the first part. Overall, though, the defense was great. Kobe Durant did not play. They held him out. Ahkello Witherspoon played. And, PFF's not going to say his numbers were great. But you know what? No big plays. They kept everything in front of them. Surprisingly, the Jets, with all that time that Rodgers had, didn't take any big shots, right? They didn't take any deep shots. And then just the plays the other players made. Omar Spates and others on all those fourth downs that the Jets went for. Jets, I give them full credit. They came at the Rams with everything they had. They came at the Rams like a 4-10 team with some cold weather, at home, cross country, 3-hour time difference, and they gave the Rams the best they could. And a couple breaks here or there, and it could have gone their way. So I don't want to say it was an ugly game. To me, an ugly game is turnover after turnover after turnover, a lot of penalties. But it is what it was, right? That's what we expected it to be. The good news, though, well, we'll get to the good news. The second part I want to get to before we get to the good news is I'm not Nostradamus. Are you Nostradamus? Is anybody out there Nostradamus, right? And even Nostradamus, right? Every time Nostradamus gets quoted as he predicted this, it's always after something happened. It's never before something happens, right? So whatever the deal is with Nostradamus or seeing into the future, I do know this. I do know from my seat in the RamCave when the Rams are going to run an inside or slip screen to Puka Nacua. And if I can see it in the comfort of the RamCave, the rest of the NFL is going to see it. Please, that thing is played. That thing is seriously played. Skip a game or two before you run it, right? The Rams aren't running the jet sweeps to Nacua all the time now either. They let a game or two pass. They didn't run one yesterday. Can we avoid the slip screen just a little bit just to make teams think? Detroit did that fake fumble yesterday, and people were saying, oh, are they showing off? What are they doing this for? I'll tell you why Detroit does the fake fumble. Detroit did that fake fumble play that resulted in a touchdown is because, Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson, they know it's like open up all the box and make every defensive coordinator think about all the things that are possible with that Lions offense, right? And when I look at the Rams sometimes, they are hyper dependent on that Puka Nacua inside screen, slip, whatever you want to call that screen. It's not a bubble screen. And I like it, but man, we're seeing a lot of it. Sooner or later, that route's going to get jumped, right? Anyway, so that's the bad stuff. The good stuff, third straight week Stafford hasn't been sacked. Credit the O-line, even if PFF doesn't, right, for pass protection, and credit them for plowing the road for Kyren Williams. Again, I thought the Hunter Long call was weak. Some of those Blake Limmer holds were a little cheesy too. But the Jets without Quinnen Williams, McVay committed to the run, and we're seeing that more and more. I go back to the 2019 season, and McVay treated running the ball like it was the measles or the mumps, right? It was like, oh, we can't do this. They stopped running the ball. And this year he's committed to the run even more so these last couple weeks. And it's been fantastic. 2 weeks in a row now, the Rams have won, and Rams, an indoor team. 2 weeks in a row, the Rams, an indoor team, have won in extreme rain and extreme cold, right? And that was another road win. They won in Seattle, New Orleans, Frisco, and New York in the last 4 road games. Seattle's no pleasant experience either weather-wise. New Orleans is a hellhole for the Rams. And then Frisco, it was a downpour. And what was it, 21 degrees when game time started yesterday for the Rams with the Jets. So all those things are playing in the Rams' favor, and the Rams look good. They're winning games. That's the most important thing. They're winning games, and it's not pretty. All 4 tight ends played. I thought that was interesting. Who was it? Was it Hunter Long had 19 snaps, Higbee 17? I looked at this. Parkinson 15, and I think it was I'm not sure, Higbee at 15. And that was pretty interesting that all 4 of them played. And hey, give credit, the Higbee launch, right? If that inspires the Rams, go for it, right? But that guy launched from 5 yards out. Now he's 6'6", but launched from 5 yards out. The funny thing is, when he caught it, I knew he wasn't going to be stopped, right? Because that guy's like tasting pay dirt now after all he's been through. And that was pretty special to see. And as of now, no new injuries to report. And we need to send thank you notes to Bryce Young. And Mike McDaniel for ending the seasons. Well, I think the Frisco season was already over with the Rams win. But Bryce Young, Dave Canales, the Panthers shut down the Cardinals. And so that'll give the game next Saturday night a different theme. Offensive line did its job. They even got decent scores except for Bo Limmer. They got to pick on somebody, but this offensive line's done a good job. It's doing it on the road. It's pounding the ball. And it's like this one thing that you know the Rams are going to find a way to run the ball, right? And I was impressed with Kyren Williams. One, he's just a smart runner, right? He runs with his eyes, finds the slots, finds the holes. He does such a great job running the ball with his eyes, right? And of course, you got to say it because a lot of people are talking about it today. Did you see all the blitz pickups he had? That's why he got in the lineup, right? Folks, that's why Zach Evans is in in New York on the Jets practice squad. He couldn't do that. That's why probably taking time for Blake Corum, even though he was solid in college. Kyren Williams is extra special at picking up that blitz, right? Extra special. And that's another reason he's a valuable back. And then you go still into this place again where I've been a little back and forth on it, but boy, you watch him and it's like, do we give him another contract next year to maybe get a better deal than being held hostage with him after year 4? Because, next year is his final year with the Rams as far as his rookie contract. So a lot of good stuff there happening. Let's look at you guys. Questions came rolling in. Thank you for being with us. I know it's Monday night and everyone's dying to watch the Saints and Packers, right? Bill, will Cardi, our kicker, cost us a playoff game? I'm going to attribute yesterday to the cold. Now, he's not Anders Carlson, right? But I think at the pregame or on Friday, I said both kickers are going to miss an extra point kicking in 20-degree weather. But the ones we needed, the bombs he hit for field goals, he knocked them in, and I'm going to live with him. One, I told you, Pastor Joe, that our corner was covered. We only allowed the Jets to score 9 points. Our defense is solid. I agree. The defense was solid, but man, those were some long drives by the Jets. Long drives. Now, I know they went for it a lot on fourth down, but those were some long drives. Steve Ramirez. Cardi is fine. He kicked a brick 40 yards to clinch the win. There you go. Yeah, I think we're on the same page there, Steve. Onene, we will finish out the season 11-6. We are too hot right now. We cannot be stopped. Let me ask you this. Great question. I think we should finish 11-6. Let's just say, I think the Packers. I think the Seahawks play the Bears next week. Okay. I think that's in Chicago. I think it is. Let's just say the Bears beat the Seahawks. The Rams have already won the division. If the Rams beat the Cardinals and the Seahawks lose, Rams win the division. Even if they finish with the same identical record, do you rest your lineup in week 18? Do you rest your starters in week 18, not caring whether it's a win or not a win? There's part of me that says yes, and there's part of me that says no. There's part of me that says no, and the reason I say no is I hate to break the rhythm. I don't want to break the rhythm. And here's the good news that makes me feel a little bit better about that is Stafford hasn't been sacked for 3 weeks. He hasn't been sacked for 3 weeks. And so that makes me feel a whole lot better about, hey, let's play that week 18 game. Let's not break the momentum. Not necessarily for an 11-game win season, but let's not break the momentum there. Let's see. Onene, but our Rams Nation came with an early Christmas gift. All our division lost. Yep, there you go. It was a Christmas gift. Tim Burns, I am in on Limmer. He jacked a guy up on that Nakua dump. Yeah, I saw that. Absolutely. And now that you mentioned that, yeah. Kistler, I'm still shaky on Cardi. Oh, this is Mr. Kistler. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Kistler. I think we will be in the market for a kicker next year. I hope I'm wrong. I think they believe in him. I was not upset about the extra point miss. Maybe if we had lost 10-9, I would have been, but I think we need to hang on with him. I think he's going to get better. And those kicks he made yesterday were big time. Those were big kicks. Tim Burns, for 2 games, Stafford has thrown some real ducks in the flat. He's going to get Nakua killed. I hate that play call, man. I'm getting sick of that slip screen. That little, they gotta be a little more diversified. Just watching the games, that's what I see. Paul Kistler, agree with Mr. Burns. Limmer is the real deal. I think he's pretty close to it. Onene, my wife is a prophet of the Lord Jesus Christ. The Lord took her to the future to see the Super Bowl 59, and we won. Like I've been saying, glory to God. Okay. All right, Onene. Tim Burns, Joe, opinion. Why is McVay having issues scoring in the first quarter, minus like 60 points in the first? Well, I throw out the first half of the season. And also, how many touchdowns did the Cardinals have in the first quarter of that game? Was it like 21? They have 3 touchdowns that first quarter in week 1, week 2. I throw out a lot of that. Here's what I do like, and I think it's been real noticeable the last few weeks, is the adjustments, right? We keep seeing adjustments, right? And where some coaches, they stick with the game plan. You really get the sense, at least I'll let anyone prove me wrong. You really get the sense McVay goes in the locker room and says, what the blank are we doing? This is not working. We better adjust. And so that's what I think leads to some of that. Higbee, Tim Burns, Higbee looks crisp. Got to get more targets to him and open up the running game. Well, the running game's doing pretty good. And if Higbee's that healthy, I think he is going to be soaking up a lot of the snaps. The 38-yard run by Corum was called back, shows what we got in him. Yes, I thought Hunter Long got stuck with a false accusation there. I don't really think that was a good call. Let's see here. Tim Burns, better lock Kyron up now in 2 years, 3,000 yards total, 30 touchdowns. Lock him up. Yeah, that's the great question, right? Are the Rams going to spend the money? Because he is in his 4th year next year, and so is Carnell Lake at safety, right? Rams usually don't advance those guys. We'll see. We hope they do. Bill, Kyron reminds me of Lawrence McCutcheon. In terms of all the fundamentals, I think you're right. And in terms of a guy that had great vision, never really gets the home run, the 70-yard run, but does all that stuff in between, there is some similarities there. You know, the shoulder pads were bigger. So I think I always see McCutcheon as much bigger than Kyron Williams. But no doubt that's a good comparison because he's not Steven Jackson. He's not Eric Dickerson. He's not Marshall Faulk. Let's see. Tim Burns, the look on Carty's face when he clanked his fourth off the upright. Curiosity was on his face, not worry. So I am not worried about him. Okay. Onene, no, keep it going. That's the Rams competing week 18. Tim Burns, you called misses on both kickers. You get a Kistler mug. You remember that? Thank you so much. Yes, I do. I'll get my Kistler mug out. Jose R. It's funny. Cardinals were eliminated. They were a team that personally worried me, yet they were taken out surprisingly by the Panthers. I thought so too. Again, I think the weak link, I think everything's going right for the Cardinals, and I expected them next year to be the team that really create some damage. We've seen what happened with the 49ers. We were all talking about this in the spring. We said they're gonna be a playoff team. We said that, but we also said they're going to take a step back because they're getting older. Their window is closing, and it slammed shut, obviously. So that was one thing there. That made me think, ooh, look at the Cardinals draft. Look who they've got. And they play hard for Jonathan Gannon. And then we looked at the Seahawks. And the Seahawks, the author of their demise is Geno Smith, right? Geno Smith giveth and Geno Smith taketh away. And Geno Smith's a nice player, but too much Geno Smith, right? It's like cake batter. Geno Smith is like cake batter. I love cake batter. When I was a kid, nothing like better than getting the mixers from my mom or licking the bowl, right? One of my favorite things in life. Even to this day, if my daughter makes a cake, I still love the cake batter. Well, when I got older, when I was living with my roommate, I might have been living with my roommate, I bought a Duncan Hines cake and I mixed it up really good. And I decided I was just going to eat the batter. Yeah, it wasn't the same. I got sick, right? That's what Geno Smith is. He's kind of tasty for a while. He makes some beautiful throws, but he makes some brain dead decisions, walking dead level decisions. And that's always going to hurt the Seahawks. But we're talking about the Cardinals here. Cardinals surprised me this year. They got a pass rush without any real big names rushing the ball and coming after the quarterback. And to me, their holdup is the inconsistency of Kyler Murray. That's what their holdup is. And that's going to be the ace, the trump card, small t, for the Rams going forward, because it's going to be the Rams and Cardinals, I think, for the next couple of years. Let's see here. Thank you, Jose. If you haven't signed up, Jose, thanks for hanging out, man. ESG, I think the Rams should at least play the first half of the last game of the season. Yeah, I see that too. I think that's a good call, ESG. Steve Ramirez, I'd say maybe under that scenario, Joe, it would be smart to play the starters for a half. It would minimize injury, but keep the rhythm. There you go. Yeah, That's the most important thing. I think you and ESG are on that, Steve. G's Nuts, good to hear from you, G's Nuts. Witherspoon looking good. Keep Durant on the bench. And when he comes back, unless Witherspoon play declines. I think what we're seeing here is a lot of depth right now. If Emmanuel Forbes can give us anything to go into the final 2 weeks of the season and the playoffs with Darius Williams, Akilla Witherspoon, Kobe Durant, and maybe an up-to-speed Emmanuel Forbes, this is going to bring great comfort to us as Ram fans at that cornerback position. We've grown to enjoy the off linebacker guys, right? We've been comforted by Roseboom and Spates. We love our safeties, and we love our front seven, right? So we're feeling really good right now. And if they could just nail that down, geez nuts, that would be great. Bill, it's amazing. We got crushed by the Cardinals, and now we're playing them, and they're eliminated. Hey, that week 2 game, that was a trap game. That week 2 game, no Nakua. We lost Cup. We had already lost Steve Avila. We lost Joe Noteboom. We lost everybody in that game. We also didn't have Alaric Jackson. That was the second game of a suspension. And I think Warren McClendon was playing for Havenstein. I think he was. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or maybe he wasn't. You tell me. I can't remember. I think we ran McClendon at left tackle. I have to go back and look that one up. But it was a different Rams team. And we had Trey White in the secondary, and it hadn't been sewn up yet. And Cam Kitchens was looking like a second-day draft pick. Right now, Cam Kitchens isn't getting beaten up and burned as bad as he was before. Jalen McCullough has risen, right? We've seen a lot of growth in this Rams defense. Remember, week 2, everyone was saying, hey, let's fire Chris Shula, right? And now people are dropping hints that Chris Shula might be a HC candidate around the league. My note to Chris Shula, look at what happened to Brandon Staley. Stay another year or 2 as DC and run this ride. Don't just take a job because your last name's Shula and you think you should be a head coach. You're going to be a head coach if you keep this up. But I wouldn't jump ship too soon. Tim Burns, hey, our defense have allowed 6 and 9 points on the road too, Mr. Burns. Onene Vangashem, if the Panthers beat the Cardinals, we will have no problem taking care of business with the Cardinals. I agree. We should not. Again, every once in a while, this team rears its youthful head, and they get real young sometimes, right? They get real young. All right, I'm Joe Tarosian as a sports writer for 21 years, and now I do RamView thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law, and that allows us to do this. I also write books. My books are on Amazon, and you can get them on Amazon. Just type in my name, Joe Tarosian. And I've written 3 football novels, 2 of them high school football novels. My latest novel is Game Day in the RamCave. Now, here's an interesting thought about Game Day in the RamCave. I don't have a copy with me. I sold it. But Game Day in the RamCave is interesting because it's a fictional playoff game between the Rams and Packers at SoFi. Do you know who the Rams, if the playoffs were to start today, do you know who the Rams would play in the first round of the playoffs in SoFi? They would play the Packers. I mean, talk about Nostradamus, right? You might want to get that book. It's on Amazon in soft paperback, and of course in Kindle version. All right, check those things out. So thank you for supporting us. My day job is I pastor a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene. You can follow us right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, burbankfaithvirtual.com, Burbank Faith Virtual, all across social media. Hey, let's jump to the playoff situation here. Lions are 13-2. They are playing the 49ers and the Vikings. So nothing has gotten easier for the Lions. All those injuries, they still keep winning, but the Vikings are 13-2. And the Vikings have the Packers this coming week and then the Lions. So their schedule is a little bit tougher. 49ers, I think they'll play tough for a while, and the Lions will crush them. But it could come down to Vikings-Lions in Week 18 to see who gets that number 1 spot. That Eagles loss to the Taxskins was devastating. They fall to 12-3. Rams, of course, 9-6 are now in the 3rd spot. Falcons, by win of the Giants yesterday, they won that scrimmage, the Mercer of the NFL. The Falcons improved 8-7. And the Buccaneers lost in Dallas, and they're 8-7. But the Falcons have the tiebreaker because they beat the Buccaneers twice. Then you got the Vikings 13-2, Packers 10-4, and the Texans 10-5. If the Packers were to lose tonight, they would fall to the 7th spot. So that Texan win, yeah, they're going to the wild card. It's not absolutely wrapped up yet, but they are. Cardinals are eliminated. 49ers are eliminated. All that's left is the Seahawks. If the Bears can do us a solid, hey, we gave them a win earlier this year. Maybe, just maybe, they could do us a solid and take care of the Seahawks for us. All right, our Rams remaining schedule: Cardinals 7-8, Seahawks right now 8-7. AFC, Chiefs keep winning, man. Chiefs keep winning, and they beat the Texans, and I'm going to talk about that in a second here. They beat the Texans, and yeah, they just keep doing it. And they got Hollywood Brown back. Bills are 12-3. They got a little scare from the Patriots yesterday. Steelers are still ahead by the tiebreaker in the NFC North. They lost to the Ravens, and the Steelers close with the Chiefs and Bengals. That's tough. Ravens close with the Texans and the Browns. So advantage Ravens there. And then the Texans get the Ravens and the Titans. Chargers are 9-6. They get the Patriots and the Raiders. And I don't know if the Patriots are considered a pushover anymore. I'll go lean Harbaugh on that one. But, Drake May's playing well. If he ever had any talent around him, that would be a serious issue. Broncos are 9-6. They get the hot Bengals this week, and then they get the Chiefs. So that loss the Broncos had to the Chargers last Thursday was a big deal. And that keeps, by virtue of the wins, the Bengals, the Colts, and the Dolphins all still alive, technically, right now. All right. College football, we saw it. All I want to say about college football is, goodness gracious sakes alive, right? If you need any proof that the KBM, the Kiss Butt Media, is on the SEC payroll emotionally, all you have to do is just hear all the stuff when SMU got blown out, when Indiana got blown out, and it was like, oh, Alabama shouldn't bid there. Note to Alabama fans, don't lose to Oklahoma when Oklahoma's crappy. Maybe you should have gone if you could have beaten them, right? You couldn't. You had SEC losing to Vanderbilt even. No, they got it right on who needs to be in there. The seedings might have been kind of funny, but basically what you saw in Indiana and SMU, and I talked about this in a column today that I posted on Mid-Valley Sports. I wrote a fan view column. You guys can check that out. I'll put it in the box at the end of the show. Is basically what you saw is two quarterbacks who weren't ready for the big lights, right? O'Rourke in Indiana was completely overwhelmed of being in South Bend. And it was at Jennings. Is Jennings the quarterback in SMU? 3 interceptions in the first half, 2 pick sixes, and a third deep in the red zone. If those quarterbacks do what they're capable of doing, sure, Notre Dame and gosh, now my mind's blanking, and Ohio State were better teams. I totally get that. But if their quarterbacks played half as well as they played most of the season, those games would have been more competitive. And for the record the Irish didn't put that game away against Indiana until the fourth quarter. So, yeah, and you want to talk about a dog. Tennessee was the dog. What happened to Tennessee? That's an SEC team, and they rolled over like dogs, right? They rolled over like dogs. Yeah. Sorry, it wasn't Ohio State that beat SMU. It was Penn State that beat SMU. Happy Valley and South Bend. Those are two, for a guy to play a playoff game, those are brutal places to play football. So you got Penn State gets Boise State, Texas gets Arizona State, Ohio State gets Oregon, and Notre Dame gets Georgia. I am kind of surprised Georgia's in the playoffs because, right, they lost their quarterback, right? Isn't that basically how things are? You lose your quarterback, you shouldn't be in the playoff. Anyway, just working off some stuff there. No injuries to report right now for the Rams. That was all good news. And everything is building real nice. Okay, so we had the Broncos Chargers on Thursday. We talked about that. Texans Chiefs. Okay, I'm going to say something unpopular here, and I hate to lose anybody and get anyone mad at me, but I'm just going to say it. When I was a kid, I heard about Chuck Hughes dying on the field. A few years ago, I saw Damar Hamlin, we didn't know it at the time, die on the field. When Tank Dell went down on Saturday, by the reaction of C.J. Stroud and the rest of the team, you would have thought Tank Dell died on the field. Bad knee injury, absolutely. Awful thing to happen. You don't want that to happen. But the explosion of emotion, sorry. I people get hurt all the time. You know, Higbee's was clear last year in the playoffs, right? You don't like it, but the weeping and the sobbing. If your teammate dies on the field, I'm not going to question it. But Tank Dell made a beautiful catch. But isn't there something missing in the generation? Am I the only one that thinks this? That, man, dude, you got to nut it up and you got to go out there. And you're the leader of the team, CJ Stroud. You're the leader of the team. You gotta deal with that. You have to deal with it. Rally the troops, right? Sorry it happened to your brother. Stop. Is there a tad bit of narcissism there to think that your throw caused that? Unless your receiver in the old days is going across the middle on Ed Reed or Ronnie Lott or Jack Tatum on a dig route and you hang it high and he gets decapitated by like Sammy White did in Super Bowl, what was that, Super Bowl 11? Then you could feel bad, right? But there was nothing to feel bad about. And emotionally, I wish somebody had grabbed CJ Stroud, dragged him to the bench, put him in the blue tent and said, dude, grow up. I know. Forgive me. Let me know how you feel. But I expect to take heat on that one. That one bugged me. Baltimore, we said, would beat the Steelers because the Steelers were shorthanded. Steelers were in that game for a while. Steeler fan Rob is wanting Justin Fields back. Go ahead, Steeler fan Rob. Put Justin Fields back in, lose the division, and go first round in the playoffs again. But you'll feel good because you got 10 wins, right? Hey, Russell Wilson is not Ben Roethlisberger in his prime. I totally agree with that, but he's better than Justin Fields. And of course, everyone's talking Super Bowl again with the Ravens. Ravens are like the Eagles for me. When they get there and they win it, then I'll believe, right? Until then, I remain very skeptical. I'm the Sam Harris of the Ravens, okay? There we go. Giants, Falcons, again, that was a disaster. Panthers, Cardinals, give credit. Panthers win the Ricky Pro Bowl. They played tough. They found themselves the back half of the season. Lions are just hanging it all out there and giving people all sorts of things to think about. Give them credit as they've kept on winning with all these injuries. And it's going to be a shame because sooner or later it's going to catch up with them. It's going to be a shame to see them get bounced because that's truly a Super Bowl team that is running out of chips and such. Bengals, give credit to Joe Burrow. He kind of owned that attitude on the sideline he had, and he spoke well of his coach. I give him full credit for that last week. And again, since he went into Cleveland or hosted Cleveland, got the win. Colts in the Bubba Smith Bowl over the Titans. Rams, Jets in the Greg Zuerlein Bowl. We talked about that. Washington, 36-33. Washington is like a younger version of Green Bay. Green Bay's young. Washington is like pre-K. And they don't know what they don't know. So they're just going to keep playing. And honestly, in the first round of the playoffs, I would rather play Green Bay right now than play Washington. That's just me. Call me crazy. Vikings at Seahawks. Sam Darnold looks great. They win the Steve Hutchinson Bowl. Again, I like Geno Smith. I love Geno Smith's story. Geno Smith can make some big throws, but Geno Smith is to quarterbacks what Jared Cook was to tight ends. He giveth, and then he giveth away, right? He giveth back, right? And Seahawks, I don't know what they got left of Tyler Lockett. They got they got Metcalf in his prime, DK Metcalf in his prime. They definitely got Jackson Smith-Njigba in his prime. They got a couple of nice running backs. They need to think quarterback, and they need to think offensive line and go from there. Patriots at the Bills, Lawyer Malloy Bowl. Buffalo got scared early. Buffalo deserved to lose that game because they were wearing Patriot red. I hate those red jerseys on the Bills. There you go. I said it. Jaguars at the Raiders in the Rob Johnson Bowl. Raiders won 19-14. Okay, Dolphins finish off the 49ers 29-17, and the 49ers are dropping like flies. Sunday night, the Joey Galloway Bowl. Dallas just keeps playing hard for Mike McCarthy. If anyone get a message to Mike McCarthy, when Jerry Jones comes around and starts talking sweet, talks contract, you don't need this, Mike. You don't need it. Let him know he doesn't need it. Make Jerry Jones suffer for not putting you under contract earlier this year and having you send your team on really, and I'm not a Cowboy fan, a heroic run. The Cowboys, I'm trying to see who they finished the season against. Let me see this right here. The Cowboys have the Eagles and the Texans. Those are some tough games, right? Those are some tough games. They could literally finish 7-10. They could also finish 9-8. Just something to think about. Cowboys are playing hard. And if I'm Mike McCarthy, I don't know if I want to go back to Dallas. Maybe Chicago, right? Maybe Chicago. Anyway, throwing it out there. Okay, let's look at some questions here, guys. Thank you for sticking with me and hanging out. Let's see here. ESG, Murray's place is best when there's nothing on the line. I have a tendency to agree with you on that, ESG. I view Murray as a great splash quarterback. He makes splash plays, those amazing scrambles and stuff. He's a splash player. But to ask him to do something consistently, he just doesn't. Look at Lamar Jackson circa 2019, late 2018, all of 2019. Made all kinds of splash plays, right? And then they got bounced early. But look at him now. Far more consistent. Far you could tell this guy is not playing Call of Duty, right? The film this guy is watching is what his coaches are giving him to watch, and he's in the quarterback room or wherever he's at studying, because you've seen it in his game. There's a consistency in Lamar Jackson's game that you don't see in Kyler Murray's game. Good call there, ESG. G's nuts. Let's see. I'm sorry. My bad. One. Yep, that's true, ESG. Okay. Yeah, he agrees with them on Murray. Tim Burns, Darnold has to be given his props. It isn't a rebound season. He's flat out balling. I agree. He just needs to think real hard where he wants to go next year. Real hard. He's made some money already, but he needs to think real hard about, hey, maybe I want to stay in this Viking system. If he takes the Vikings to, say, the NFC Championship game, right, you got to bring him back, right? I mean, J.J. McCarthy, let him sit and stew for a year, right? Jordan Love sat for 3 years. Let him sit. Aaron Rodgers sat for 3 years. Let these guys sit a little bit. Let them marinate and let him heal. Let him get better, and let Darnold do what he does, right? I think the Vikings might want him as much as he wants the Vikings. And, so that would be good for them. Personally, I'd like to see him go. I'd like to see him go to the AFC. Yeah, go to the AFC. Go to Jacksonville, Sam. That would be great. Bill, if you take away the Bills game away, the Rams gave up 14 Saints, 6 to the 49ers, Jets. Not bad. Yeah, good call there. Good call. And again, when you take away the Bills game, let's take away Josh Allen. If they didn't have Josh Allen, he accounted for all 6 of their touchdowns, running and throwing. So, yeah, this Rams defense is playing well. ESG, the team that paid the most for their players are advancing in the college football playoffs. Yeah, there's college football's problem, right? There's a lady in my church who's a big Illini alum. She went to Illinois. She was there in the Jack Trudeau years. She was at the Rose Bowl when they played she was in the band when they played the Bruins, and she's part of my church. And so she's a big Illinois fan, and we always talk about it. And I guess they did it at halftime of an Illini basketball game. They announced that Altmaier was coming back for next year to play quarterback for the Illini, and everyone cheered. And I said, that's really interesting, because how as good a year as Altmaier had playing for the Illini, he could probably make a lot of money going someplace else. And the truth of the matter is, with college football, the Power Fives just need to say, NCAA, we're not listening to you anymore. Stop paying them lip service. Get your own commissioner. Work on creating some kind of consistent kind of schedule. Get rid of the Mercers, and stop calling them scholarships. Stop calling them scholarships. When these players come out of high school, let North Dakota State, let some of these other schools, Colorado College of the Mines or whatever, Northern Arizona, New Mexico Highlands, Texas A&I, let some of these other schools give scholarships. These Power 5 conferences give contracts, and just say, hey, you sign here, you're signing here to play for 2 years or 3 years, right? Something's got to change, because there just doesn't make any sense with everyone bailing and stuff. Well, it makes sense. The NCAA is paying for its sins, and I'm glad to see that, but college football itself is suffering. So, yeah, whoever pays the most money, absolutely. Let's see. Jennings at SMU, this is Tim Burns, looked more like Jameis Winston. Yeah, those were bad. Richard Ramos, casualties of war as a wide receiver. Yeah, I think you're talking about Tank Dell. That was a horrible thing. Now the kid just came back. He made a great catch. And I could say, dang, that sucks. That's my teammate. And I can be upset about it. And maybe I can cry about it and break down for him in the locker room, but I'm not going to do it on the field. I'm just not going to do it on the field. Tim Burns, watching Clark and Aaron Rodgers banter is funny. Clark missing an INT in the Super Bowl that resulted in a TD is his fuel for the whining. Okay. All right. Richard Ramos, I was taught you knock somebody on their behind and you don't pick them up. I got to say, Richard, that is one of the things that I do miss in the NFL. I know I'm a minister. Everyone's going to come back at me and say, oh, it's not very Christian of you, Pastor Joe. Football's a different animal. Basketball, all sports have that competitiveness, but man, there's someone out there trying to knock you down. And especially in the NFL, they're taking bread out of your mouth, right? And stuff, or your children's mouths. And the total love fest after games bothered me. I liked it better as a fan when these teams really went after each other, right? When they didn't like each other. That always, felt good. Tim Burns, Fisk is making a case for our defensive rookie of the year. He is doing well as Verse. I think they're both doing well. They're disruptors. And they're doing a great job. ESG, if playoffs start today, Washington will be playing the Eagles. Yeah. Do you think the Eagles want any of that, right? Do you think want any of that? Let me ask you this as a Ram fan. Given how the Rams played the Packers when the Rams were depleted earlier this year, Rams had a shot to win that game against the Packers. Do the Packers or the Vikings scare you? And these are good teams. But if the Rams are playing them at SoFi, they don't scare me. And we know it doesn't make any difference if they play them at SoFi or Lambeau or up in Minnesota because the Rams are never going to have a home field advantage. But they don't scare me. Taxkins make me a little nervous because of Jaden Daniels. But yeah. So Tim Burns, Steeler fan Rob will be begging for Russell next game. He won't admit it. Tim Burns, I'm confessing, Terry McLaurin has been off my radar completely. He has had a real quiet 450 receptions, 6,000 yards receiving. Dude is nice for the deeper routes. I was on my fantasy team last year, and I didn't get a chance to draft him last year. I really like him. Steve Ramirez, I was at the UCLA beatdown of Illinois' 1984 Rose Bowl. What a wonderful day. Yeah, big day, right? Steve, no, that wasn't Bono. That was Neuheisel, right? That was the beginning of the run of the fifth-year quarterback for Donahue. Yeah, that was a good UCLA team. I really liked Neuheisel. They started off a little rocky, and they just they followed up, right? They had beaten Michigan with Tom Ramsey in his fourth year, and then they beat Illinois. And then Illinois team, sophomore, and was it Mike White? I think Mike White was the head. Cool uniforms. ESG. This is a post-Stafford question. Do you ever see the Rams going for Trevor Lawrence since he's pretty much done in Jacksonville? If he can remember his name, yeah, I think they could. I think, again, you're seeing this. Geno Smith's not as talented as Sam Darnold, but we see Geno Smith get somewhere. They spend a lot of time with him. They invested in him. And he's become a competent NFL quarterback when he was a bust, right? Even though he was taken in the second round. You've seen it with Sam Darnold. We've seen it with Baker Mayfield. I think a lot of these quarterbacks, not only do I think that about Trevor Lawrence, but who pops into my head when I think about it is someplace down the road he becomes available because the Rams interviewed him. The Rams had interest in Aiden O'Connell. And it'll be interesting to see what Vegas does in terms of quarterback issue. They've got O'Connell under contract for another couple of years. It doesn't come due at all. But, you look around the league, just because of his track record right now, when you look at McVay, yeah, bro, I can definitely see something like that if that was possible. Tim Burns, just a reminder, Mina Kimes has no business where she is. She's DEI media. Mina Kimes never bothered me early on. The last few years, she's bugged the snot out of me. Onane, Mina Kimes is a Seattle Seahawks fan. I've heard that. Tim Burns, I hate the post-game hugs, jersey swaps. I wanted to eat the other team's face when I played. Yeah. I think when you get off the field, you go to the locker room, you cool down, kind of flip the switch, then you can go to the locker rooms and exchange stuff. But on the field there, I don't like it. I know. People are going to say, not very Christian of you, Pastor Joe. ESG, I think the Rams' next quarterback is going to be mobile. He's going to be somebody that's going to have to make big-time throws. That's all I know. Somebody that's going to have to make big-time throws. Mikey Gutierrez, not sure how we pull it off, but Arch Manning would look really nice in ram horns. Yeah, that's funny. Okay. Yeah, he would be. Rod, Joe, what's up? Miss you, man. I miss you too, Rod. I don't know which Rod I'm talking to, but thanks for clicking on, Rod. But I'm here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5:00. Ooh, we've hit the 45-minute mark here. Let's do a couple things here. I don't have much.
It was a stone group, my man.
This much in Rams history. Except this, December 23rd, 1951, Rams won their second world championship. Rams won a title in Cleveland in 45, and they won one in Los Angeles in 51, and then they won one in St. Louis in 99, and then they won another one here in 21 in LA. Rams been all over. They've been everywhere. They're the Johnny Cash of the NFL. But on this day in 1951, Tom Fears caught a great pass from Norm Van Brocklin in the fourth quarter, and the Rams beat the Browns 24-17. Interesting, in 99 in Super Bowl 34, Rams were tied with the Oilers or the Titans, and it was a touchdown pass to Isaac Bruce in the fourth quarter that gave the Rams a win. Interesting enough, in Super Bowl 56, Rams were down in the fourth quarter to the Bengals, and it was a touchdown pass to Cooper Kupp that gave the Rams the Super Bowl. Kind of a weird trend there. But on this day in 1951, 73 years ago, the Rams beat the Cleveland Browns. There you go. Let's see here. Divisional playoff games. Rams lost to Green Bay in 67, 28-7. That was like a few weeks or a month after they beat Green Bay at the Coliseum with the blocked punt by Guillory and the touchdown pass to Casey. This was the date of my first Rams playoff experience loss. 27-16, Rams lost to the Cowboys in Dallas. Rams had beaten the Cowboys that year. Still had to play in Dallas because of the archaic NFL rules. That was the game. Steve Priest went for the interception instead of the hit on Drew Pearson when the Rams had closed the gap to 17-16 and changed history. All right, there you go. Also on this date, 1984, Rams lose the wild card game to the Giants in Anaheim. That was the Dwayne Crutchfield game where it was a fourth down call, and John Robinson thought he'd cross up the Giants by not giving the ball to the 2,000-yard rusher that year, and Eric Dickerson, and gave it to Dwayne Crutchfield, and Crutchfield stopped. That was kind of like going with Lindale White instead of Reggie Bush in the Rose Bowl. Anyway, I digress. That Ram game I actually missed. I actually missed that game because I had to work at Albertsons that day. There you go. I missed that game. Let's see here. What else we got? I think I got everything in there. I think I did. All right. There we go. Let's see. Steve Ramirez, there is a good highlight film on that 1951 title game. Yes, I've seen it, Steve. And man, I didn't bring my book out. I got it here and I put it down someplace else. It's the Derek Ciapala, the one that Derek Ciapala, he does Ram Talk. It's a podcast. They do a good job there. He works with Michael Stewart. He's actually a contributor to a book that is called Los Angeles Rams 1951. You can buy it on Amazon, and it just covers that whole season, how they scouted, how they got players, and all that stuff. It's a really interesting read. Steve Ramirez. Crutchfield was a second down call, which forced the Rams to settle for a field goal. Okay, I'll take that one, Steve. Again, I didn't see that game. I had to work, right? And I think what happened is I had a friend recording it, and then someone came into the store and said, "Oh, Rams lost," and I refused to watch that game. Yeah, that's a tough one. To watch if you're a Ram fan. So I haven't watched it. Okay, let's look at a couple other things here. A couple of notes I made. There was a lot of stuff broke this week about Ricky Henderson passing away. And someone asked me, were you a big Ricky Henderson fan? And I wasn't. I was not a Ricky Henderson fan. I liked Ricky Henderson in terms the talent that he was. There's no arguing the talent. My goodness. He appeared in 4 decades of baseball. His accomplishments were off the charts, right? 3,000 hits, 1,000 RBIs, 1,400 stolen bases. He's only 3 shy of 300 home runs. But listen to this, his OBP, his on-base percentage, was .401. Today, he'd make Ohtani Soto money if he was playing today. And if he wasn't making that money, it would be because some analytic nerd said, the analytics say, Ricky, don't steal. And they wouldn't have let him steal, right? Great player. On the flip side with Ricky Henderson, his I'm the greatest claim in front of Lou Brock bugged me. I remember the whiny holdouts with the powerhouse A's teams of the late 80s. And then the account of him and Bobby Bonilla in the playoffs back in 99, when the game's still going on against the Braves, him and Bobby Bonilla are in the locker room playing cards. As Frank Costanza would say about Ricky Henderson, about anybody else, this guy, he's not my kind of guy. So I wasn't a big Ricky Henderson fan. I held no anger towards him, but I doubt I'm the only one who had issues with him. And I'd be curious to know what Mr. Burns thinks. He grew up an Oakland A's fan, but local kid, grew up in Oakland, did all that stuff. Great player. I just had some problems with him. All that said, may he rest in peace. My wife asked, sometimes my wife surprises me. We're in the car today. She's, oh, Ricky Henderson died? How old was he? I said 65. And she was kind of shocked that he passed away so young. So there we go. Things to think about. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I missed in my notes. Was I too harsh on CJ Stroud? I don't know. I made a note here about Colin Cowherd. He was talking about the Washington Redskins in the 70s and 80s, and he refused to call them the Redskins. He goes, oh, that Washington football team. And it's like, dude, have the guts, dude. Say the name. Say Redskins. McIntyre said it, but he couldn't say it. Bugged me. Just thought it was weak. Dodger fans, how are you feeling about Walker Buehler? Walker Buehler signing with the Red Sox? I have to admit, I thought the Dodgers would sign him, especially the way he pitched down the stretch in the postseason. But, and I say this as a Mets fan, this is what makes the Dodgers front office great. And you see the same thing with the Rams. The ability to move beyond emotion when building your team for the next season. It's like, man, we thank you so much for what you did, but we're moving on, right? And yeah, they gave him 1 year, 21 rocks there in Boston. The one that's everyone's emotional about right now. This guy was key. Is Teoscar Hernandez, right? Everyone was key about Teoscar Hernandez, and he's talking to a lot of folks these days. All right, guys, want to be sure, check me out. I hadn't written a column for a long time, and I wrote a column called FanView on midvalleysports.com with my friends. I'm going to do the column there. And also be sure to check us out on Spotify from the RamCave. We could use your help. Let's see. Steve Ramirez, Buehler was gone after the signing of Snell. Yeah, it made sense. I totally get it. But again, credit the Dodgers, right? This lack of emotion, this lack of all the fans wanted Walker Buehler back. And Buehler, I thought Buehler just showed up, a tenacity coming back down the stretch that I had not seen prior to his injuries, right? And I became a Walker Buehler believer, but I also know 2 Tommy Johns? I get it. And then they went after Snell, and Snell is just one of those guys, right? The Snell in Tampa Bay wasn't the Snell in San Diego, right? And you don't know what you're going to get sometimes, but I give the Dodgers credit, right? I give them credit. They are not caused. They are not held hostage by emotion. Think about the Rams. If we could say goodbye to Bobby Trees, right? Who, by the way, Bobby Trees, Robert Woods at his age, this time in his career, returning kickoffs for the Texans. Man, what a stud, right? What a stud, high character player. If you can move off guys like that, then man, anything, you can do anything. Tim Burns. All right, I got about a minute and a half here. Let's see what Mr. Burns says. Ricky is the ultimate player. Leads MLB in stolen bases, runs, and second in walks. Most leadoff homers ever by over 20 home runs. He was good enough to talk in the third person. There you go. Yeah, that's right. That's right. He was good enough to talk about himself in the third person, right? It's like a Seinfeld episode, the Jimmy, right? Ricky's getting upset. Do you want Ricky happy, or do you want Ricky playing pissed off? I remember him saying that, right? Do you want me pissed off, right? And yeah, he was funny. Steve Ramirez, Ricky was part of my big trades 1990 Strato League I was in. Oh, I always wanted to play Stratomatic ball, always, and I never did. Now, I do fantasy baseball. Anyway, all right, guys, I better let you go. I appreciate you guys hanging with me. Tim Burns, I wasn't the fond on his comment being the greatest either, but he wasn't lying. No, you're not. Now, let me ask you this. Okay, I'm trying to get out of here. Do you think if he was in his prime, do you think he would command Otani type dollars and Soto type dollars? Do you think he would? It almost seems like he'd have to, unless literally he came of age in a time when some analytic nerd was saying, no, man, we don't steal bases, right? We don't steal bases and stuff. What do you think, right? I think you couldn't pay this guy. There you go. Cup 10. Oh, thank you, sir. I hung around. A new guy joined us. Thank you. If you can subscribe, that would be great. Just getting ready to sign off. Pro Bowl vote games. Pro Bowl games vote. Okay. You know what? I never participate in that. Mr. Burns kind of told me something. Tim Burns, another loyal RamView follower here, Mr. Cup at 10. He kind of got me thinking is that because I'm I really don't care about awards. But, when you get those awards, you get those things, it is something to the players in the sense that, hey, I went there and I became a Pro Bowler. I went there and, they produced a Rookie of the Year, right? And it means something to them. And so in that case, you got me thinking, Mr. Burns, if that's the case, then yeah, we should vote for our Rams. We should be pushing for them in these situations because it helps their career. I agree. And it might get more free agents to come in. Not that we score too well with free agents. All right, guys. Please hit like and subscribe, hit share. Check out my column on midvalleysports.com. I'll put the link in the comment box. And there you go, Mr. Burns. And I'll put the link in the comment box and follow us there. Follow me at From the RamCave on Spotify. It's the audio version of this show. And check out Game Day in the RamCave, fictional playoff game between the Rams and the Packers. It's like a prophecy. It's coming true. Check it out. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Cup 10, thank you for joining us. ESG, Richard Ramos, all you guys, Jose R, Onene, Bill, G's Nuts, all you guys for clicking in and participating. Paul Kistler as well. God bless. Take care. We'll see you Wednesday.